What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm going to be bringing you my pre-starter deck Bond of Friendship list. Now, I showed you my Ancient list last week, and now we're going to be doing the Ancient list here. Now, I thought the Ancient list was a lot better, but after a lot of testing, I do think that this list is going to be a little bit better in the meta, just because there are so many Bond of Friendship mirror matches, and you want to be teched for that, as well as you want to be playing around security control. So we do have some techs that are in here for the security control matchup, but with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into the list. Now, getting into the Digitama, we're going to have 4 Upamon and 1 Demivimon. Now, this is just going to be staple till starter deck comes out. You want to be playing the 4 Upamon anyway. This card is very powerful. Being able to draw pretty consistently is really good, especially if you're missing one of the pieces that you need. You can just swing in one of your Digimon, get a security check, and draw a card, so it is pretty impactful. And then being able to unsuspend and get the 1k boost is pretty important in the mirror match, because that's one less way for your Bond to die in security, is by swinging over the opponent's Bond in security by going up to 15. Now, getting into our Gabumons, we're going to have 4 of the chunky Gabumon. Now, this one's going to be staple because we are playing the Bond of Friendship list, and you want to get your 3 swings in with this Gabumon, so it's pretty important. And then next, we're going to have the 4 draw Gabumon. This card is just one of the best Gabumons. It's very consistent, being able to just draw a card, because you want to find a lot of different pieces, and where a lot of these cards search, having a card that's just drawing and not putting anything to the bottom is going to be very good. Next up, we got 3 Promo Gabus. Now, this card is just going to be really good at finding your Matts and your Davises early and getting them out there so you're not getting choked, or you can go up to your Bond and everything like that. I only play 3 because I am playing the 4 Strabimon, and since we are having a stronger hybrid core, I do value the Strabimon a little bit more, so we're going to go ahead and just be playing 3 of these, but this is our Gabu lineup for this list. Then, like I said, we're going to have the 4 Strabimon. This card's going to be very important for finding your hybrids and finding some Tamers, and being able to double hit off Strabi is very good, and it's also pretty consistent, and it also makes it so you put less cards to the bottom of your deck. The Gabumon that searches for the Tamers are great, but sometimes you do bottom deck some stuff that you really need, like your Bonds, and so being able to do a smaller search sometimes is a little bit more helpful, and it feels a little bit better because you won't be putting as many things to the bottom. But I do just like Strabimon here because you get to hit pretty much everything that you need, and it's going to be super important to be able to find your hybrids in the security control matchup. Now, we're going to have 4 Lobomon and 3 Kendo Garuru. These are going to be our hybrids to go on top of our Tamers. Now, we have 7 instead of the 6 in the Ancient list because we are going to be a little bit more reliant on these. These are very, very crucial in the security control matchup and the 3 Musketeers matchup. And then Kendo is also very good in the mirror. Being able to bounce one of your opponent's Digimon back to their hand is going to be pretty good, because you get to either remove a Gabumon from the field, or you can remove one of the rookies on their board, so that way they have less checks coming in, so maybe you don't just get bonded out of the game. Next, we got 2 Grizzlymon. This card is just really good in the mirror match. You're going to be able to stop your opponent's rookies from swinging in early if you hit it. It is a little bit useless later in the game, but this card is pretty good in other matchups as well. Just being able to Digivolve on top one of your Strabimon and have this defensive card while also getting a draw to get to the pieces that you need is going to be pretty good. Most decks play more than 2 Grizzly, but I like it as 2 just because whenever I play more, I do feel like it does kind of clunk, because it's not as impactful in some matchups, and if you draw it later in the game, it's usually never really impactful versus the Bond decks, so I just like it at 2 here. Next, we're playing 2 Magnetromon. This card is very key in the security control matchup as well as in the mirror, so I bumped it up to 2. In security control, it makes it so you can slow the game down a bunch and make it so you can get the pieces that you need, like Tamers on board and hybrids in hand and stuff like that. And during the mirror, if your opponent starts swinging in early and gets like 2 or 3 checks in, then you are just in Bond range, so being able to Magnetromon up and get up to 4 or 5 back security does save you a lot. So I didn't really like this card being at 1. I didn't feel like it was consistent enough, and a lot of times I just really needed to see it, so bumping it up to 2 helps it so if you bottom deck it, you still have a chance of finding it, or if it's in security, you can still find one. Then we got our big boss monster here, Bond of Friendship. Obviously going to be playing 4 in the Bond deck. This is our main tool. We want to be finding it as much as consistently as possible, but not really much else to say here. It is a Bond deck. Now, getting into our Tamers, we're going to have 4 Davis, 4 Matt, and 1 Sorijo. Now, these 8 here are probably very obvious to you. Davis is the only card in the deck that can directly search for Bond, and then Matt is our main tamer to gain memory, draw, and then also go up to Bond. So why the Sorojo? Well, the Sorojo is currently in testing, but I can say this card is fantastic in both the mirror match and security control. In both those matchups, you're going to very consistently be gaining 2 memory off of this effect, and when you pair that with Davis, that means you're going to be starting your turn at 5 memory. That gives you a lot of options in both those matchups, but most importantly, I wanted to go up to 9 tamers. The security control matchup is quite annoying, and you want the consistency of having multiple tamers on board so you can go in with your hybrids. So I decided to bump it up to 9. When looking at the blue tamers, Sorojo just seemed to be the best. Being able to gain extra memory is very good, because when you're gaining 2 memory, that's essentially the Lobomon that you can just put on top of this without any really repercussions. And then you can also tap this to trash the bottom Digivolution sources, which will help you get Upamon draws, or just get rid of any annoying inheritables that might be like security attack inheritables or anything like that. So I do like the Sorojo here. I'll definitely be playing it until the starter decks come out, because it has been very impactful in both those matchups, and I do think those are the most important matchups. Now we're going to have the 4 Cocytus Breath. Now this card is absolutely insane. I was playing Rattlestar, and I just found Rattlestar to be very bad, very inconsistent, and not really being able to bounce the things that I needed to bounce, and Cocytus Breath really solved that, going up to 4. And I can tell you by playing a lot of mirror matches that this card decides the mirror match a lot in security. When you're playing it at 4, you're very often going to find one in security, and being able to hit it, bounce your opponent's Bond back right after they just trash 2 security, and turn their tech short is very good. And then in the security control matchup, it's very good because you can just play this for 7, bounce whatever big Digimon they have back to their hand, and they're still going to give you a bunch of memory coming back to your turn, so it's not really important that it costs 7. But having this at the highest consistency in security is pretty important for being able to bounce back big stuff, most importantly the Bond. But ever since I went up to 4 Cocytus Breath, I haven't missed the Rattlestar at all. I might change this when the starter deck comes back, just because we are going to get a bunch of different cards, but I can say that these 4 Cocytus Breath is very powerful. Next up, we got 4 Hammer Spark. This card is just insane in security. Being able to hit this and end your opponent's turn after they're trying to go for big turns is really, really good, and it's something that your opponent has to always play around. And then also just being able to gain extra memory on your turn to extend your plays and get better turns is so valuable, so I love this card at 4. And when playing in the mirror with the Ancient build, I noticed that the 4 Hammer Spark consistency was so much better than the 3 Hammer Spark, because you really want to be getting this as much as possible, so have to keep this at 4. Then to finish the deck, we are going to have the 3 Howling Memory Boosts. Now we don't have the other memory boost yet until starter decks, so we're going to be playing this one, but this card is absolutely amazing, and I'll probably still be playing it post starter deck as well, because being able to stop one of your opponent's Digimon from attacking or blocking is very good. I've had multiple games where I've just been able to stop a blocker, so I get that one extra check in to swing for game that my opponent was thinking that they were playing around by playing the blocker, or I can just play this to stop my opponent from swinging with their only Digimon on board if I'm at like 0 security because I just bonded, something like that. This card is just really good. Playing it at 3 gives you the highest consistency. You definitely want to have multiple of these out when you can, so that way you can gain the memory and go for your hybrid on top of your tamer plays, so you can play multiple in a turn. So this paired with the 4 Hammer Spark is going to be pretty key. So with that being said, this is going to be the list. I hope you enjoy it now while we still don't have the starter decks, but once the starter deck comes out, this deck will change a lot, and I will bring you my updated variant then. But with that being said, I hope you have a great day. Peace out.